Chapter 1. The moment the car crashed, my stomach slammed into the steering wheel. A sharp pain seized my abdomen, and as I struggled to look down, I saw my white dress stained red. Just before I lost consciousness, I saw Ethan. I banged on the car window, desperately seeking his help. But he seemed not to see me and hurriedly rushed past me towards the back. A petite figure then threw herself into his arms. "Ethan, I got distracted while driving and hit the car in front. What should I do?" With great effort, I turned my neck and saw through the rearview mirror as he held Rena gently, comforting her. "Don't worry, I'm here. Are you hurt?" Rena shook her head, tears welling up, looking frightened. Ethan glanced at my car and said, "Don't worry, I'll compensate the car owner generously. I won't let anything happen to you." Then his eyes fixed on something, and for a moment I thought he recognized it was my car. But he simply frowned and instructed his assistant, Henry, "Make sure the car owner doesn't call the police. Handle it privately, no matter the cost." Ethan never once looked my way. In his eyes there was only Rena. I wanted to see how he would handle this privately. Hearing Ethan's command, Henry hesitated, glancing at my car. "The airbags in the front have deployed. They must be injured badly. If we deal with this privately, the person might be hard to handle." Before he could finish, Ethan's expression turned stern, his voice cutting through the air. "No matter how troublesome, it must be handled privately. I don't want Rena to face any distress. Understand? Whatever it takes, I'll meet their demands. You're my assistant. If you can't even handle this, what good are you to me?" Henry nodded submissively, then approached my car with a serious demeanor. Just then Rena cried out, "Ethan, I feel so dizzy. Could I have a concussion?" Ethan, worried, scooped her up. "Little fox, why didn't you say you were feeling unwell? What if something happens to you?" Rena leaned into him, casting a challenging glance my way. Henry finally realized who was in the car and hurried to report to Ethan. I signaled him to keep quiet. He understood the implication of the blood on my dress and swiftly arranged for me to be taken to the hospital. The doctor informed me that there was a risk of miscarriage but suggested we try to save the pregnancy. I firmly refused. "Doctor, there's no need to try and save it. Just perform the abortion." The doctor's eyes filled with regret, but he respected my decision. "We'll need a family member's signature. Has your husband arrived?" I scoffed internally. My husband was busy tending to the woman who had just crashed into me. I forced myself to speak. "I'll sign myself." With trembling hands, I took the consent form and shakily signed my name, using the last of my strength before collapsing onto the hospital bed. "Honey, how can I relax if you don't get checked thoroughly?" "Stop it." I looked up and saw Ethan holding Rena, carrying a stack of medical reports. A young nurse, enviously observing them, commented, "She just rear-ended someone. She didn't even get a scratch, and yet he's so worried, insisting on every possible test. Of course, you want a husband who truly cares for you. I envy that girl. She must have saved the galaxy in her past life to end up with such a man in this one." Her chatter continued, oblivious to my changing expression. I let out a cold laugh. "That's my husband." The nurse's eyes widened in disbelief. When I awoke, I found myself in a hospital bed. Henry looked at me with a troubled expression. "Ma'am, this is the last VIP room available. The hospital is asking us to vacate it because Mr. Lewis wants Rena to stay for thorough examinations." How considerate. I opened my dry mouth and managed to say, "Tell the hospital I'm not moving." Henry thoughtfully poured me a glass of water. "Ma'am, perhaps you should tell the CO the truth. He still loves you, he just doesn't know you were the one who got hit." I took a sip of water. "You should go back and tell him the accident has been handled. No need to trouble yourself here." Just then the door opened. Rena entered, pushed in a wheelchair by a nurse. She looked at my pale face with a smug smile. "This room is mine now. You should leave." I stared at her defiantly. "What if I refuse to leave?" She shrugged nonchalantly. "Then I'll have people help you move. But it might get ugly. I suggest you leave on your own to maintain some dignity." I replied coldly, "And what dignity do you think you possess, being a mistress flaunting it in front of the wife?" Her face flushed with anger. She hadn't expected me to bluntly expose her as the mistress. Furious, she pointed at me and yelled, "You don't understand anything. The one who isn't loved is the mistress. You, an old woman who can't even bear children, Ethan doesn't love you at all." Henry, unable to stand it any longer, stepped in front of me. Rena, don't go too far. Remember your place. Rena's face twisted with rage as she stood up from the wheelchair and slapped Henry. Who do you think you are to lecture me? I'll have Ethan fire you. Henry's face reddened with anger. You? What about you? You're just Ethan's lapdog and you dare challenge me. She turned her fury back on me. Why are you still here, old woman? Get out of my room. I was seething, my chest heaving with anger. As she approached, I slapped her across the face. She froze, disbelief washing over her. You dare hit me? Yes, I did. Do you think being a mistress means I need to pick a special day to hit you? This is my room. I said you can't have it and that's final. Now leave. Fuming, she lunged at me to fight. Henry quickly intervened, shielding me as Rena clawed and scratched at him. What's happening here? Ethan stormed in, flanked by several doctors. Taking advantage of my distraction, Rena pushed me hard, sending me sprawling to the floor, cold sweat breaking out from the pain. With red eyes, she cried weakly into Ethan's arms. Ethan, this room is mine, but she won't leave. She even hit me, look at my face. Ethan's anger flared. He pointed at Henry, scolding, I hired you to handle things for me and you let this happen to Rena? Do you even want to keep your job? Whoever dared to hurt her, I'll make sure they disappear from this city. Get this woman out of my sight. My heart turned cold. So this was the consequence of crossing Rena. Chapter 3. Henry stood there, visibly conflicted, his mouth opening and closing hesitantly. Mr. Lewis, I... Rena leaned against Ethan, sobbing coquettishly. Ethan, this Henry just teamed up with that woman to bully me. Look, he's not even listening to you now. Ethan's face darkened with anger. Henry, do you really not want this job anymore? Get that person out of the room now. Do you expect Rena to stay in a regular room? Henry stood still, hesitant to speak. Get out of here. If you can't handle something this trivial, what good are you? Henry glanced at me one last time and at my signal left the room reluctantly. Ethan was fuming and a doctor from his entourage quickly stepped forward to appease him. Mr. Lewis, leave this to us. We'll clear out the room for you immediately. A few security guards then entered, looking at me with a mix of sympathy and regret. Miss, you should leave on your own. It's not wise to go against Mr. Lewis. Ethan's voice was cold and commanding. I want to see who has the audacity to defy me. I'll make sure they understand the consequences of crossing Rena. As his footsteps approached, the security guards grew more anxious. Miss, please, now is not the time to be stubborn. When the footsteps halted, Ethan looked down at my back condescendingly. It's too late to leave quietly now. He grabbed my shoulder forcefully. You'll pay for your actions. No one messes with Rena in front of me. So he couldn't even recognize my back anymore. He yanked my shoulder around and our eyes met. I spoke coldly. Mr. Lewis, what are the consequences of crossing Shinran? Ethan's eyes widened in shock, stumbling back onto the bed. Sana, it's you? He scanned my hospital gown. Why didn't you tell me you were unwell? I laughed bitterly and glanced at Rena behind him. Ethan, do you know why I'm in the hospital today? Rena visibly panicked. I slowly stood up and Ethan tried to help, but I brushed him off. He looked bewildered, while Rena glanced at the medication on the bedside table, exclaiming, You had an abortion? She clutched Ethan's sleeve. Why didn't she tell you she was pregnant and had an abortion? Could it be? Oh my God. The shame on Ethan's face turned to disdain. Holding back his anger, he grabbed my arm and demanded, Whose child was it? I stared at the twisted expression of the man before me. He was asking whose child it was. The pent-up grievance I'd held in burst forth and tears streamed down my face. Ethan softened his tone, about to speak, but Rena interrupted, accusing me. As a woman, I pity you. But you're married and you cheated and got pregnant. Now you're playing the victim to gain Ethan's sympathy. Ethan is kind, but you can't take advantage of his kindness and cheat on him. Ethan's face darkened further as he demanded, Tell me, whose child was it? Who's the other man? Chapter 4. Hearing this, my heart sank to the bottom. The man before me continued to rage, pointing at me and hurling insults. I treated you so well, letting you live a luxurious life, and this is how you repay me. I work hard outside and you cheat at home, even shamelessly carrying a bastard. How disgusting are you? Ethan, consumed with fury, slapped me hard. Smack. I fell to the ground, dazed. I coldly looked at him. You hit me. After all these years of marriage, you don't trust me? Do you think I'm as low as you? His face grew even darker, his expression murderous. He gripped my chin harshly, his eyes icy. You say you didn't cheat, then why secretly abort the baby? So scared I'd find out, and you still claim it wasn't a bastard? My chin hurt from his grip and I struggled to break free but couldn't. I mustered what strength I had and said, "It was your child. I was carrying your child." He laughed like he'd heard a bad joke, staring at me mockingly. You're still denying it. Don't think I don't know how much you wanted our child over the years, taking all those herbal medicines and treatments. Chapter 5. Ethan's chest heaved. Our child. Rena's face changed and she quickly replied, just because you had an accident doesn't prove the child is Ethan's. Why didn't you tell Ethan you were pregnant? Ethan looked at me with suspicion. Even now he doubted me and my heart ached involuntarily. I coldly said, I was on my way to tell you when the accident happened. And you didn't recognize the car that was rear-ended was mine? While I was near death in the car, you ran to your mistress. You comforted her, not wanting her to get hurt, and wanted to handle our accident privately. You're truly something, Ethan. Ethan's face twisted at my words. Finally, his eyes turned red and his voice trembled. Sana, it's not what you think. He and I just have a mutual need. I love you. I'm with her because of the pressure. I need an outlet. Rena, who had been confident moments before, now looked pale and pitiful, tears filling her eyes. Ethan, how can you say that? Didn't you tell me you loved me? You said you had no feelings left for her, just responsibility? Slap. Ethan slapped Rena hard. She staggered, shock in her eyes. Shut up. You're just a tool for my loneliness. How could I love you? You even hurt my Sana and caused her to lose our child. I won't forgive you. Rena looked devastated, her face streaked with tears, looking pitiful. Ethan, I didn't mean to. I didn't know she was your wife. It was an accident. Ethan instinctively wanted to comfort her but halted when he met my gaze. I sneered. Accident? You knew it was my car and hid it on purpose, didn't you? Rena quickly denied. No, I didn't know. If I did, why would I confront you? Then what's this? I played a video on my phone for them. You followed me to the hospital 3 days ago and found out I was pregnant. Rena panicked and I continued, no need to deny it. The video is clear. You knew about my pregnancy and caused the accident on purpose. You followed my car and rammed it in a busy area. It was attempted murder. Rena fell to the ground and Ethan's gaze locked onto the video. Her expression when she hit the gas was clearly malicious. Ethan looked at her with hatred. I never thought you could be this person. You deserve to die. Smack. Ethan grabbed Rena and slapped her repeatedly. You vile woman, I won't let you go. Bitch. Bitch. Soon Rena's face swelled like a balloon, her mouth bleeding, looking utterly wretched. She glared at me with venomous hatred. I sneered, don't look at me like that. If you do wrong, you must be punished. I'm no saint. I submitted the evidence and called the police. You'll face your punishment. Ethan looked at me in panic. Wife, you called the police? Of course. He tried to kill me. Shouldn't I call the police? Just then, several officers entered. With serious expressions, they looked at Rena. You are suspected of causing an attempted murder in a traffic accident. Please come with us for questioning. Chapter 6. After Rena was taken away, Ethan fell to his knees. Sana, please forgive me. I didn't know she was like this. I was just momentarily deceived by her. I looked at him with disdain. Stop acting. Let's get a divorce. Sana, I don't want a divorce. I love you. I was wrong. I'll break up with her and never see her again. Just give me another chance. Really? Ethan nodded frantically. He began taking meticulous care of me in the hospital. If I frowned, he would anxiously call for the doctor, looking at me with concern. If I lingered on a page in a magazine, he would immediately buy that jewelry and present it to me like a treasure. He cooked meals and made soups for me. Aside from going to the office, he spent nearly all his time with me. Even the nurses sighed. A reformed rake is worth his weight in gold. Every man makes mistakes. If he can change, you should cherish him and not let some vixen take him. I just smiled without commenting. Since finding out about his infidelity, there was no turning back for us. I didn't mention divorce again, making him believe I had forgiven him. He became more vibrant and energetic. But I was merely waiting for him to let his guard down while I collected evidence of his fraudulent transfer of company assets. I not only wanted a divorce but also to leave him penniless. On the day I was discharged, I had gathered all the evidence of his embezzlement and was ready to confront him. I invited him to the restaurant where we had our first date. He looked vibrant, even having styled his hair. Despite the years, time had hardly touched his handsome face. He looked smug, thinking I couldn't let go of him. "Sana, I knew you still loved me. Don't worry, I'll make it up to you in the future. I asked you here today because..." Before I could finish, a commotion broke out nearby. "How can you be so clumsy, spilling soup on me? Do you know how much this dress costs? Look at you, you probably couldn't afford this dress even after working for 10 years. Kneel down and apologize and maybe I'll let it go." Rena stood there defiantly. "I accidentally spilled hot soup on your dress, but I didn't do it on purpose. How can you humiliate me like this?" The woman looked her up and down disdainfully. "Fine, I won't humiliate you. Just compensate me for the dress. This is a French runway piece, costing 490,000 yuan. Pay up and I won't hold it against you." Tears welled up in Rena's eyes and she looked pitifully bullied. "I don't have the money to pay you, but you can't bully people like this. Don't you think you look ugly using your power to oppress others?" I frowned. Rena had clearly done something wrong, yet instead of apologizing, she was playing the moral high ground. Although the other woman had a bad temper, Rena's behavior was smack. The woman slapped Rena hard. "Who do you think you are to talk to me like that?" She raised her hand to strike again but was stopped by a cold voice. "Try touching her again." Ethan's eyes were fierce as he shielded Rena. What a knight in shining armor. I had seen enough and left the divorce papers on the table. A love triangle is always too crowded. I won't be part of it anymore. When I got home, I started packing my things. My phone kept ringing, but I didn't answer. Finally, fed up with the noise, I turned it off. Chapter 7. An hour later, Ethan came back out of breath. He looked at me, visibly anxious. "Sana, let me explain." I spoke calmly. "There's no need. Let's divorce. You leave with nothing or you know what will happen. All these years, I let you manage the company, but you secretly transferred assets. The amount is enough to put you in prison for life. Return the money and divorce me and we can part ways amicably. Otherwise, you know what's coming." His eyes darkened and he looked panicked. "We've been married for so many years. Why are you doing this to me? Won't you leave me any way out?" I sneered. "After all these years, how have you treated me? You secretly transferred company assets, cheated with Qin Xinran. Even knowing she hit me, you used your resources to bail her out. How is that fair to me? You said you wouldn't contact her again, but the moment I'm not looking, you run to her. How is that fair to me?" He fell to his knees, his eyes bloodshot, clinging to my pant leg. "Sana, I love you. I've always loved you. But I've always felt inferior to you. You come from a good family and I was just a poor boy. After we got married, I worked so hard to prove myself, to climb to the top, but I still felt inferior to you." I sneered. "So you cheated?" He spoke despondently. "Sana, don't you see? Qin Xinran is different from you. I knew she was manipulative, seducing me just to climb up. But with her, I could be myself, show my worst side without any pressure. I felt like a man with her, you see? Sana, you're too perfect, too untouchable. I always had to be careful around you, always trying to be worthy of you. It was exhausting. And the asset transfers? I just wanted more. I wanted to prove myself." Every word he said stabbed at my heart, making it ache and my body tremble. I looked at him, a bitter smile on my face. It was all because of his insecurity. "So let's divorce. You can go live a life where you feel respected." Ethan's eyes were red. "But Sana, I love you. I can't bear to be without you. Thinking about a life without you terrifies me." His words made me laugh in anger. "You don't love me. You love this wealthy life. You don't love anyone but yourself." With that, I dragged my suitcase and left. Chapter 8. I moved back to my apartment from before the marriage. But Ethan still came to find me every day, even when I locked him out. He showed up daily, thinking I wouldn't expose his deeds out of nostalgia. I'm not a saint who turns the other cheek. One day, just as I reached the entrance of my building, I ran into Qin Xinran. She looked haughty and held her head high. "Shin Sana, why don't you just get the divorce over with? What's the point of dragging this out?" Do you think Ethan will come back to you? I'm telling you, he loves me. Every night you were apart, he was lying beside me. Did you know that? I remained calm. And yet, despite all that, he still refuses to marry you. Her face turned red with anger. That's because you're dragging your feet, using tricks not to divorce him. Otherwise, we'd be married by now. I looked at her mockingly. I was the one who filed for divorce. He's the one refusing to leave. If you can convince him to divorce, I'd thank you. Sana, do you really want to divorce that badly? Ethan appeared out of nowhere, looking hurt. Yes. Please, you disgusting person, divorce me. I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. I'm not going to divorce you. Chin Shinran's eyes reddened. What about me? I'm pregnant. Do you want our child to be born out of wedlock? Shut up. Ethan glared at Chin Shinran, silencing her. She glared back at me resentfully. I just felt a headache coming on. I looked at Ethan coldly. Ethan, don't push me. Even if you plan to drag this out, it won't work. I will present the relevant documents to the board of directors. They will take action against you. Once you're in jail, divorcing you will be easy. So let's go to the civil affairs office tomorrow and finalize the divorce. Return what isn't yours and we can part peacefully. Realizing the weight of my words, his face turned ashen. He looked pained but finally agreed to the divorce. The next day we met at the civil affairs office. I saw Chin Shinran sitting in the passenger seat, looking radiant. I no longer felt anything. After receiving the divorce certificate, I prepared to leave. Ethan's eyes were red and he reached out to grab me, but I stepped away. Ethan, we have nothing to do with each other anymore. He slumped against the wall and Chin Shinran quickly supported him, looking at me warily. I looked at her indifferently. You fought hard to win him. Hold on to him tightly. After settling the divorce, I went home. Mom knew about the divorce and said nothing, just gently hugged me. It's good you're back. After returning home, I started taking over the family business. A month later, I saw Chin Shinran's wedding photos with Ethan on social media. They flaunted their sweet life together. She wore haute couture and lived a luxurious and refined life, looking every bit the affluent wife. I frowned. Had Ethan not returned the company's money? I called a company director who confirmed that Ethan had returned the money and been kicked out of the company. So how could he still afford such a lavish lifestyle? I felt uneasy and started investigating. Before I found out, I ran into him. Chapter 9. One day after finishing a project, Mom dragged me out to go shopping. She said she had ordered a bag for me as a surprise. When we arrived at the store, we heard a commotion inside. I frowned. This store's entry-level bags cost tens of thousands. Why would someone be yelling like a market woman? Walking in, I saw a familiar face. You're just a sales clerk. How dare you look down on me? Do you know you couldn't afford one of these bags even if you worked your entire life? I'm a VIP member here. I'm your god. Is this how you treat me? I'll make sure your headquarters hears about this. Chin Shinran looked arrogant, berating the sales clerk harshly. Seeing her draped in designer clothes now seemed laughable. The sales clerk was bowing and apologizing. Ma'am, you misunderstood. This bag was pre-ordered by another customer. We really can't sell it to you. You say it's pre-ordered just to trick me because you think I don't know better. If you don't sell me this bag, I'll make sure you lose your job. The sales clerk, eyes red, kept apologizing, looking pitiful. Ma'am, please, I beg you not to complain. I'm just following the rules. How about this, when the next shipment comes in, I'll reserve one for you. Would that be okay? Chin Shinran lifted her chin arrogantly. You want me to wait? Never. If you can't solve this little problem, you're not fit for this job. The clerk sobbed, tears streaming down. I beg you, I have a family to support. I can't lose this job. I'm really sorry. Please forgive me. The sales clerk finally knelt, kowtowing to Chin Shinran. Chin Shinran sneered and continued to berate the clerk until Ethan appeared. He looked exhausted, eyes bloodshot, and his tone was impatient. Shinran, what are you doing? Why are you giving a clerk such a hard time over a bag? Can't you be more considerate? Chin Shinran's face darkened, her tone turning hostile. It's not just about the bag. It's about dignity. She's a clerk. How dare she look down on me? Are you mocking me too, looking down on me? I'm your wife now, part of the upper class. Why do they still look down on me and mock me behind my back? Ethan rubbed his temples, looking annoyed. Do you think winning this argument over a bag will make them respect you? Couldn't you learn from Sana's grace? She never stooped to such petty actions. Hearing this, Qin Shinran's face turned uglier. Why do you keep comparing me to her? She's just your ex-wife now. Remember, I'm your wife. I won't allow you to think about another woman while you're with me. I'm pregnant with your child. You can't do this to me. My mom, eyes filled with disdain, pulled me away to look at bags. Chapter 10. Shin Sana. Sana, what are you doing here? Both voices spoke at once. I ignored them, holding my mother's arm as we walked past. Seeing my mother enter, the store manager quickly came over to greet us warmly. Mrs. Shen, the bag you pre-ordered has arrived. It's this one. The manager handed over the very bag that Qin Shinran had been arguing about. My mother looked at me and said, if you think it's unlucky because of earlier, we don't have to take it. I'll help you pick another one. I smiled and took the bag. No need, Mom. I think your taste is excellent. After packaging it, we left. Qin Shinran looked at me with anger and jealousy. Ethan, on the other hand, looked dejected, staring at me as if recalling old memories. As I was about to leave, he grabbed my arm. Sana, can we talk? My mother pushed him away. Ethan, you are divorced from Sana and remarried. Holding on to my daughter like this, what does it do to her reputation? Ethan froze, looking flustered. I'm sorry, Sana. I was just too excited to see you. I have a lot to tell you. I've rebuilt my career and secured a great project with foreign investment. You. Ethan, my stomach hurts so much, Qin Shinran cried out, red-eyed. Ethan hesitated, looking between me and Qin Shinran, before finally picking her up and leaving amidst her cries of pain. That night, Qin Shinran posted several WeChat moments, showing Ethan taking care of her at the hospital. They looked happy, but I knew how rotten it was inside. I knew she was doing it to provoke me, so I generously gave it a like. Unexpectedly, she deleted it within minutes. Later that night, I received a call from Ethan. His voice was tired. Sana, I miss you. Can you forgive me? I sneered. Don't you think it's ridiculous to say that now, Ethan? How thick-skinned are you? Sana, I know I was wrong, but I want you to know that I married Qin Shinran not out of love but because she had my child. I didn't want the child to be born without a proper status. If you forgive me, once the child is born, I'll divorce her. After all these years, the one I love most is still you. No one can compare to you, Sana. His voice carried a deep plea, but I just felt utterly disgusted. Ethan, you claim it was for the child, but what about my child? Who will give justice to my child? Don't call me again. Your words only make me sick. I hung up and blocked his number. I thought we'd never cross paths again, but we met at a business banquet. I accompanied my father to meet his partners. After a few drinks, I felt dizzy and went to the garden to clear my head. Unexpectedly, I ran into Ethan. He looked even more haggard, significantly thinner, and not as spirited as before. Sana, can we talk? Do you know how deeply your words hurt me last time? I haven't slept well since. I observed him. He did look exhausted with bloodshot eyes. But what did that have to do with me now? You can't handle a few words, but what about what you did to me? Did you ever think about our years together when you did those things? Ethan was at a loss for words. I looked at him coldly. Let's act like strangers when we meet. Stop bothering me. It's really undignified. Chapter 11. As I turned to leave, I ran into Qin Shinran. She glared at me and Ethan behind me, raising her hand to hit me. I blocked her and slapped her back. Smack. Her face immediately swelled. I stared at her. Qin Shinran, don't push my limits. You haven't even paid for causing my miscarriage. Stop bothering me. Your love life has nothing to do with me, and I don't recycle garbage. A month later, Ethan suddenly appeared outside my house. He looked disheveled with a scruffy beard. As soon as he saw me, he knelt. Sana, please forgive me. Qin Shinran's child is gone. I got rid of it. Now no one can stand between us. Let's live a good life together, okay? I've divorced her and kicked her out. I'll never contact her again. I only love you, Sana. Please forgive me. I'm wealthy now. As long as you come back, everything is yours, okay? Looking at the man before me, I felt a chill down my spine. He had aborted his own child just to win me back. But it wasn't out of love for me. I had investigated and found out that he was helping a foreign gang launder money after becoming broke. To maintain his lifestyle, he secretly took money from them. Taking money from a gang was never safe. He was now desperately trying to fill the gap, so he came to me even at the cost of his own child. I felt cold. This man was a monster. I wouldn't get involved in his affairs. We're divorced. I don't love you anymore. His eyes turned wild and he grabbed my arm. No way, Sana. You loved me so much. You can't just stop feeling. He looked deranged and my arm hurt from his grip. I called the security guards who threw him out. But his madness and the gang behind him made me uneasy. Who knew what might happen next? I decided to take my family abroad for a break. We stayed away for 6 months. When I returned, Ethan was dead. But not because of the gang. It was Chin Shinran. After losing her child and luxurious life, Ethan kicked her out. She hid at his door one night and stabbed him multiple times with a knife. He died before reaching the hospital. And the gang, unable to find Ethan, captured Chin Shinran and sold her to Southeast Asia. I felt a mix of emotions, but it had nothing to do with me anymore. 2 weeks later, I took over my father's company and led it to new heights.